What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, the day is finally here. Later on tonight at midnight, the Switch 2 will officially launch, and I'm planning to have a live stream, sort of just the launch itself after I get back with the system so we can check it out for the first time. So keep an eye out for that on the channel late tonight. But today, though, we have a lot to go over, which includes Nintendo confirming a certain situation around the Switch 2 launch that certainly has people split around just coverage for, a new generation launching from Nintendo. We also have Sony announcing a full state of play for later on today, with some games actually already leaking out, one in particular being very, very interesting. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Unreal Engine and The Witcher 4, kind of, as a tech demo went live. It was about 15 minutes or so with the overall video, and a good portion of that just being visuals and technology being shown off in the world of Witcher 4. However, it's not necessarily Witcher 4 itself, or even just full-on gameplay. You can see some of the video here. Now, again, this was shown off as part of Unreal Engine's event State of Unreal, and here it shows early development for Unreal Engine 5 in Witcher 4. They say it's showcasing some of the innovative technology and features that will help bring the game's open world to life. They further clarify, keep in mind, this isn't gameplay of Witcher 4 itself, but a deep dive in the technological foundation of the new Witcher saga. I think it's very important to note here, while they did say, hey, it's 60 FPS, ray tracing, running on a base PS5, it's a very controlled tech demo, all right? So I don't know if I would immediately go, oh, this is what The Witcher 4 is going to look like. Absolutely. Not necessarily. Vertical slice just to show off what it could look like, say, on the PlayStation 6 or sometime in the future. But I think it is still very, very impressive nonetheless, just to see how far we've come with things like Unreal Engine in the world of Witcher 4. But I will tell you this, the way they're kind of talking about it sounds like we're a ways off from this game coming out, and I'm actually thinking now maybe 2027. Who knows? Maybe it'll come out, then the following year we'll get that PlayStation 6 version, since it'll be out just before next generation launches. Also, we're going back to the well with Hollow Knight Silksong, mostly because, yes, there are many events coming up where it could be completely revealed and then get the release date, but also there is, once again, movement in the background. You can see several Steam DB listings have been updated, which, I mean, includes all different game files, achievements, like everything it feels like here has been updated. It's even like new images and pictures being uploaded for the profiles and stuff on the store listing. Yeah, it kind of feels like we're there. I feel like, for Hollow Knight Silksong. Although I feel like we've also said this many times now, but consider the fact that we have, we're going to talk about it soon, a state of play from Sony, right? We have Summer Game Fest, and we have the Xbox Showcase. We know that this is going to be part of like Game Pass and stuff, so maybe they'll show it there. Or who knows, maybe we'll have that dark horse with the Nintendo Direct popping up out of nowhere, and that's where it is. It's just, there's so many events coming up where we feel like this should finally be it for Hollow Knight Silksong, but who knows? Again, we've said that before and came up empty. So here's hoping this is finally the time for Team Cherry to show up with this long-awaited title. Oh, and we do now have a date for when Embargo will lift on Death Stranding 2, because it's already out to reviewers. Yeah, it seems like there's quite a bit of confidence in this one, getting it out there, 3 weeks ahead of its release. And in fact, you can see this is posted up. This is by Shinobi, but this was being shared around by many people. Death Stranding 2 reviews will be live June 23rd, 8 a.m. Eastern time, so actually a couple days there then before Death Stranding 2 officially releases here at the end of June. And I'm very curious about this game in particular, because just based on the previews of like 30 hours or so, people seem blown away by it, and some are describing this maybe as like an 80-hour game or something crazy. So it just seems like there is a lot here. Seems like Kojima, of course, built on the foundation of the first Death Stranding game, but of course, being able to develop around specifically the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 5 Pro. I feel like this is going to be an incredible looking game, but also just, I feel like the atmosphere overall they'll create with this, and I'm sure some wacky and out there moments, it's going to be a very, we'll say, unique title. One that's not necessarily going to work for everyone, but for me, I like the first Death Stranding, so I'm going to be on this one day one. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Switch 2. Again, it is out officially tomorrow, But tonight, I'll be going to picking it up at midnight, and we'll check it out here on stream. It should be a lot of fun. That first hands-on with a next-generation device, and one that is going to be taking the current model of the Switch, that hybrid system, to the next level, with NVIDIA even going out there touting yesterday it's like the most advanced mobile chip ever created. It's kind of what they're supposed to say. They're going to be like, wow, this chip is so dated. No, they're going to tell you it's this cutting-edge chipset. And look, based on what it's doing right now with ray tracing, DLSS, and other aspects, yeah, it's a very advanced chip inside of the Switch 2. Still, though, the thing that I think is surprising a lot of people right now, okay, is there's not a ton of coverage for it going into launch, and a lot of that has to do with Nintendo not really sending out any review units or review units for games or systems, nothing, all right? So while we heard about that previously, it wasn't from Nintendo, it was from just press outlets that had been relaying information of, yeah, we're not really getting any review units at all around Nintendo's next generation with that Switch 2. Now we actually have a response from Nintendo. This we can see is posted up. This is by VGC saying, according to a company spokesperson, Nintendo decided not to send Switch 2 review units to press ahead of launch because important features and updates will only be available via a system update on the day of the console's official release on June 5th. Okay, side note here. I assume the day one update is live today, okay, like June 4th. Because it's going to be very awkward if we go and pick this thing up at midnight and the update is not available. That is going to be very strange. So I assume even at the time of this recording right now, maybe it's live on their servers, or even hopefully hours ahead of midnight. Well, hey, we'll find out tonight. Anyway, they go on to say, it did not say what these updates entail or explain why the media wasn't offered the opportunity to review its launch games like Mario Kart World and Switch 2 Welcome Tour at in-person events instead, like it did with previous console launches such as Wii. Neither did it explain why critics can't be trusted to cover products with knowledge that additional functionality would patch later, as they're frequently used to. I like the framing of that. Why can't you trust these critics? Why don't you go and explain that, Nintendo? Now, I will say, when you get some review codes for different games, you'll get notes sent over where it'll tell you what's going to be fixed in a day one update. So you can kind of then look at that and say, well, I can tell people in this video review I'm going to do of an obvious issue, but they say it's going to be fixed. Or some will just, I assume, gloss right over it or walk right past it because it's going to be fixed anyway, who cares? But backwards compatibility, which I think is a big aspect of the Switch 2 right now, especially with some of those free updates that we're seeing, or upgrades for current Switch 1 games like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or like the different Legend of Zelda games, Link's Awakening, Echoes of Wisdom, and just curiosity around things like Mario Odyssey with HDR and even just better performance in general there. But aside from that, you have a lot of games for the Switch 2 that just are not going to have reviews or like independent coverage. Right now, Mario Kart World and Welcome Tour did get coverage, and that comes from preview events that, once again, were very controlled under sort of the watchful eye of Nintendo representatives. It's not like, oh yeah, we're going to send you the Switch 2 system a week in advance and you can play these games and then you can write coverage and put all the information out there, because there's still a lot of questions around the Switch 2 right now, 12 hours or so, a day before the system is out. Now, I will say, from my perspective, I don't get stuff from Nintendo anyway, so it's actually great for me because it's an even playing field in general. So tonight, when I come back with the system and I start opening up, we check it out, it's literally going to be the first time for pretty much everyone. Well, most. I know some already have it, but like in general, for everyone, for the most part, we're all getting it at the same time. So it does work out for me, but it is also just less information for the end consumer here. And Nintendo not sending out review units is kind of odd. And some have called it as like red flags. I think Nintendo's just thinking, we don't really need to. People are going to buy this thing anyway. And in fact, they are. And just based on the fact that there's still a ton of stock that seems to be getting put into different stores for launch day, I feel like this is going to be massive in terms of sales. So at the end of the day, Nintendo is still going to sell a ton of these systems and it won't necessarily matter. But it would have just been nice to have more information rather than no information at all. Well, basically none from independent outlets or reviewers or anything going into its release. But hey, again, we'll check it out later on tonight. And I'm going to tell you now, rip to your sub feed, because there's going to be so many videos that myself and many people will be putting out there. Just information around the Switch 2 itself, its functionality, different aspects maybe around the eShop, these different upgrades for these older games, and then of course new titles like Mario Kart World or Fast Racing Fusion and many others. So it should be a lot of fun, but it's also going to be very, very busy. Next up, let's talk about Sony and their State of Play event that was indeed announced yesterday. We were talking about Shinobi mentioning on Reset Era, kind of hinting towards it, but yeah, it was a thing. And in fact, it's happening later on today. We can see this posted up. This is over on PlayStation Blog. They say, State of Play returns June 4th. Watch live for news and updates on must-play games coming to PS5. The show highlights a selection of great games from creators across the globe. The 40-plus minute show begins June 4th, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, YouTube and Twitch will both have streams live. And after this was announced, stuff started to kind of leak out a bit. Now, Resident Evil 9 appears to have been rumored already before the State of Play was announced, and we were looking towards Summer Game Fest as the most likely place, but I mean, we've seen Sony and Capcom work hand in hand with these different Resident Evil announcements and releases, so I wouldn't be shocked, I'll say this, if RE9 was actually at the State of Play later on today. Not necessarily confirmed or anything, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's where it was. Otherwise, I guess look towards Summer Game Fest for that one. However, there are two announcements that seem very, very likely, okay? One kind of came out of nowhere for me. We can see this from Tom Henderson saying, hearing a lot of scuttlebutt about the 2.5D Metroidvania game or whatever it will be, yeah. Seems to be much smaller in scale than what I initially thought. This is in response to God of War returning to the Greek saga. So we'd get a 2.5D God of War Metroidvania-style game as a prequel, I guess, for like the more recent God of War games, even before that. I actually like that idea, mostly because the way with God of War, right? So we had God of War 1, 2, and 3, and they started to feel very similar, right? We had kind of the same thing going there, got to change it up. Okay, here's 2018, here's Ragnarok. Again, we get to the end of Ragnarok. Okay, I feel like we've kind of like seen the course for this. What else we got? 2.5D Metroidvania style. I like it. All right, so this is a smaller scale. That's fine. All right, and well, I guess it's something we should see later on today at the State of Play. We'll keep an eye out for that. But here's the other one, and this is one that, Final Fantasy Tactics. Okay, so the original director, first off, retweeted the State of Play, deleted their retweet very, very quickly, by the way. And then here comes Jason Schreier on his social media account just saying, I'm just saying, Final Fantasy Tactics, one of the greatest games ever made. You know, just randomly putting that out there. Oh, okay. And then he follows up and says, oh yeah, remaster. Not like a remake, it's a remaster. And look, we've heard about this for a while. We figured it was going to get announced at some point in time, maybe even during this this run of E3 not E3 season. I guess we're going to look towards this State of Play later on today for some sort of Final Fantasy Tactics remaster. Very, very exciting. Something to at least keep in mind. Don't know if it's going to actually happen, but I'm crossing my fingers, especially for Final Fantasy Tactics, see some kind of resurgence here. Okay, Venom. There, of course, was that game that was leaked out in the Insomniac files. Seems like a good spot for it here for the holiday season. Who knows about Wolverine? It's been forever. It'll be nice to see that here as well. And you know what? I'm interested. Fair Games or Marathon will either show up here, because I'm kind of thinking no. And again, Fair Games, I'd be shocked if we ever see it again, to be honest. Also, keep in mind, Naughty Dog does have some other game that they've been working on for years now. That would be a good one more thing kind of announcement, but I mean, they're working on Intergalactic as well, and maybe we want to keep all the attention for a Naughty Dog specific game on that. But if it's not until 2027, is the other game going to end up being a PlayStation 6 title? So it's kind of tough to figure out how exactly you navigate those announcements there, but seems like we'll have some pretty cool stuff to look forward to later on today. Again, 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the Sony State of Play. Next up, let's talk about the very strange situation that is MindsEye, which I did the preview for it. It was hands-off. We just kind of watched people play the game, and it wasn't the best preview. The game itself, from a technical side, didn't really look like it was necessarily ready. It was pretty buggy, and even the gameplay itself looked okay. Looked like a game from the early Xbox One PS4 days, I guess, like an action-style game like that. But something seems to be happening there when it comes to the executives and the personnel, which we can see this is posted up. This is over on Eurogamer. It says, the chief legal officer and chief financial officer at MindsEye developer Build a Rocket Boy have left the company a week before the game's release. Writing on LinkedIn, former CLO Riley Grabner said he was proud of what the team has accomplished during his time there, stating that during his tenure, the company had doubled in size to over 450 employees. Grabner did not give a reason for his departure. In addition, Build a Rocket Boy CFO Paul Bland has also left the company after 2 years. So it's usually not great when higher-ups like this just start leaving, especially before a game comes out. I mean, MindsEye is out June 10th. There's an IO interactive showcase, I think, Friday evening, and this game is supposed to be there alongside of that 007 game. I'm curious what we see there, because it seems very shaky right now that this game is even going to come out on June 10th, although we're a week out. You feel like if they were going to delay it, they would have already done so. So I'm still just curious about this game in general and the state that it's in when it does release. Who knows? Maybe it shocks the internet and it comes out and is actually really good. It's of high quality, and this is just a very weird build-up for a game like this. I don't know. If I had to place a bet, though, I'm thinking this game comes out and it's sketchy. But apparently there's no review codes going out early for it. I guess on release day they'll send some out, or not at all. Pulling the Nintendo strategy there, just with a very unknown game. At least with Nintendo, I mean, Mario Kart at this point. People have played the game, haven't really played MindsEye yet. So it's not looking great right now for this game, for Build a Rocket Boy. But here's the good news. We'll find out here pretty soon, in 5 days, what exactly is going on here with MindsEye when they release it and somebody takes the plunge for $60 to see what it's all about. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ubisoft and the potential for a Ubisoft Forward event, which doesn't really look like it's going to happen at this time. We can see this posted up. This is by Steven Datillo over on their social media account, saying Ubisoft Forward, which has been a digital and in-person showcase for the company's games just about every June, isn't happening this year. A company rep tells me Ubisoft will participate in IGN Live, so June 7th to June 8th, and PC Gaming Show, June 8th, and will also be at Gamescom. The company rep says, we are always eager to connect with our players and showcase our games. We are continuing to explore opportunities to share updates, and we look forward to providing more information at a later date. Now, as I mentioned, some of the games that I was curious to see from Ubisoft were mostly remakes. So Splinter Cell remake, right? That was a big one there that I would like to see something about there. And then we have Black Flag, that getting a remake. And then we have Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. So those are like the big three that I'm thinking of. And okay, for them, I guess in this case, they can participate in other events, PC Gaming Show. They can do the IGN Live stuff. They can do Gamescom and just kind of sprinkle these remakes throughout depending on when their release timing is. Like, I don't think Splinter Cell's coming out until next year, so they could show that at Gamescom and it would be fine. Although Prince of Persia needs to come out before the end of this current fiscal year, so it has to come out before, the end of March 2026. That might be one they maybe show here soon, IGN Live as an example. And then Black Flag Remake is another one that I think is going to have similar timing as well. Some were wondering if it come out by the end of this year. So that, you feel like, would be another one that they would show here pretty soon. But if that's what they have, then yeah, you can kind of sprinkle it in through other events. I was just a little surprised to not see them at something like Summer Game Fest. Seems like a good spot for them to showcase one of these titles with a firm release date. But I guess in their mind, they got to wait until they have some big new titles maybe ready to go alongside of stuff like these different remakes. And it seems like right now, at least, Ubisoft Forward event isn't in the cards for June, at least not a dedicated one that can be held up by so many games at this point. So maybe next year they'll have something ready to go, but at least for now, we'll look towards IGN Live or even Gamescom for hopefully something like a Black Flag remake. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played Final Fantasy Tactics before? 65% say no, 35% say yes. I saw some comments saying a lot of you are missing out on this. The story of War of the Lions, one of the best told in Final Fantasy history. And I know that there are many people who are like, you know what? The tactics-based gameplay, it's not really for me. Some say that, hey, I played the advanced one, and that was great. But, there's not really I know you can emulate these games and stuff, but if you put it on the newer systems, especially with trophies or achievements, or just being able to play it on something like the Switch or Switch 2, it's going to be I think, more accepted and picked up by people at that point, as opposed to, hey, set up this emulator or come up with this retro gaming handheld device or set it up on your phone. It's just people want to sit back on their couch, not have to think too much about it, and load it up. So I really do hope that this is a thing, this remaster. And Square, I'm telling you now, if you do this, you gotta give us a physical copy, and don't give us that game key. If it's a game key on the Switch 2, but it's an actual cartridge on the Switch, I'm just buying the Switch 1 version. I mean, like, I know, I'm sure it'll look really sharp and clean and everything on the Switch 2. It's got to be on the cartridge. Come on, Square. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day. You can see here. This is from Doomy Ray, who says, another filler video. What a coincidence. Another filler comment. There's a Furja here, says, if you've never been to any retailer in Japan, systems are already front and center and highly pushed. There's no need for Nintendo to do this at all. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, if you have Switch 2s in stock, if you just put a sign out, I'm sure in Japan, you're going to get foot traffic into the store, and that's generally the main idea of having these newer systems on or around release day, week, month, whatever, especially as restocks come in. You're just going to get more and more people to come into the store and, you hope, buy things outside of just the Switch 2 system. So, like, the margins on systems are generally low to non-existent, and that's why you go, hey, do you need an extra controller with that? Do you need a headset with that? Do you want to look at the used games? Switch 2, no used games, probably just, yeah, but you get the idea. Like, you want to look at the high margin stuff to go along with just your Switch 2 system. So I'm sure the Switch 2 in general in Japan, yeah, it's going to be sought after quite a bit. So you just put that out there, a sign, we got Switch 2 systems in. I'm sure you'll have plenty of people lining up either way. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to kill some time waiting for midnight roll around to get your Switch 2. Actually, a full podcast with Scott the Woz and beat 'em ups, just kind of our final thoughts heading into the Switch 2 launch. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.